My name is Justin Kellogg, and this is RevMatch. RevMatch is a channel about the automotive industry. It covers everything from news, history, mechanical bits, market analysis. Everything that you would ever want to know about the automotive industry can be found here at RevMatch. RevMatch was created on the idea that passions and dreams should be unlocked and should be lived out. My passion is cars. I love everything related to the automotive industry: design, power, mechanics, and the culture. I want to share my passions with as many people as I can, and to do that, I started RevMatch, a place where you can find all of the automotive news, mechanical tips, stories, and honest reviews of cars in one place. The format for the show is pretty straightforward. The first thing mentioned is historical refresh, any fact of importance that has been taken from the industry that we all love, from where it once was to where it is now. Then we're going to talk about news in the industry, events, any upcoming changes to the automotive industry. I want to talk about it. Next, I want to take an analytical approach to these videos. I want to make sure that I divulge every detail from market values, market trends, consumer interest, and global financial patterns in the automotive industry. Finally, the last segment covered will usually be a brief explanation of a mechanical bit of cars we love. I've got this great whiteboard right here that allows me to make some pretty cool diagrams and graphics that will help explain the mechanical topic of the week. Every week I'll use a different combination of those, kind of spice it up, keep it fresh so that it keeps you all on your toes. But this week I want to turn the page back to January 9th, 1909, when two guys from Appleton, Wisconsin, Otto Zakaw and William Besterditch, start the Badger four-wheel drive auto group, better known today as FWD, or four-wheel drive. The company patented four-wheel time drive system combined a lockable center differential with double wide constant velocity universal joints for steering. The United States commissioned the small group out of Wisconsin to build 15,000 units for wartime use. That makes sense considering these remarkable four-wheel drive features and a small wheelbase and an axle width of 4 feet and 8.5 inches allowed it to be put on train tracks and easily transported to wherever it was needed for wartime. The truck paved the way for many of our favorite off-road vehicles today. It helped make nations aware that four-wheel drive vehicles were the best way to travel over rough and treacherous terrain. Now on to the news. So this week has actually been a pretty crazy news week. There's still a whole bunch of stuff formulating over the weekend with California and the emissions rule on exhaust, aftermarket performance exhaust. That's been blown up everywhere. But the things that I've wanted to highlight, the first one takes us to Italy. Raging Bull was full of surprises last year with the release of the Aventador SVJ, and they gave us a fantastic release of the new Huracan EVO this week, the next generation of the beloved Huracan. From 2015 to 2018, the Lambo has had the same 5.2 naturally aspirated V10 that makes 610 horsepower and about 420 foot-pounds of torque at the crank. It has had several variations throughout its life with the Performante, the Spider, and the rear-wheel drive series. But not until now has the base horsepower increased, nor has the car undergone such drastic changes. It's got a reworked 5.2 V10 that pushes out 631 horsepower and 443 foot-pounds of torque at the crank. With some extra aero trickery, different diffuser, rear and reworked deck lid, it's got a better front intake and coolant system. I assume it will be a beast around the track with extra downforce. It also has gotten some new amenities, such as four-wheel drive steering, following in the hands and the lines of Porsche. It's got a canoe control system setting, which I assume allows for control of a system. It's got a much larger integrated touchscreen. And all of these amenities come to think that the Huracan is still very well into development. Now, we still don't have all the details yet, but just be prepared for it to set you back an estimated $260,000. We also have some exciting news regarding Toyota. Although the new Supra isn't just out just yet, we're still a few weeks away, but one lucky seller was able to get $121,000 for his very slightly used 1994 Mark IV Supra. And when I say slightly, I mean slightly. The car only had 7,000 miles, it was immaculate. And that's nuts considering it was a 25-year-old car. More than the base MSRP of a new C7 Corvette and many used supercars. But it makes sense with all the hype that surrounds that car, from movies to its legendary looks and its otherworldly 2JZ GTE engine that produces 320 horses at the crank and can be easily modified to 500, even 800 horsepower with just a simple bolt-on turbo kit. It makes sense why the market is showing such crazy prices for that car. Anyways, it was really interesting to see how the older Supras hold all their values. I mean, once the new specs have been released of this new one, will they go up? Will they depreciate now? Who knows? Time will tell, but it's crazy, and congrats again to the man who cashed in on this car. I'm sure he was just as surprised as the rest of us that a 25-year-old car was able to bring $120,000 in resale. Moving on to Ford, we arrive at the all-new 2020 Explorer, which has undergone its biggest changes in over a decade. The midsize crossover reverts back to being rear-wheel drive, which allows for more cargo space due to the lack of mechanical bits that are needed to get the front-wheel drives to turn. There are new powertrain specs and a possible hybrid option that will be in the top charts for the Aviator trim package, but the base 2.3 EcoBoost 4-cylinder has been given 20 more horsepower to make it out about 300. However, the biggest change comes in form of the new 3-liter EcoBoost V6, which in this platform makes 365 horsepower and an impressive 380 foot-pounds of torque, which will be pretty nice getting up and going on the highway and freeway. It's been completely renovated from the inside and out with cosmetic changes, creature comfort upgrades such as a larger and cleaner 12.3 digital gauge cluster and a new 10.1-inch portrait-style touchscreen with modern tech such as Android Auto, Apple CarPlay, and the works, the whole thing. The technology will also be some of the quickest in the midsize segment, actually quickest in the whole car market, because Ford is rolling out their brand new, first-time released 5G networks on all vehicles. Being one of the best sellers in Ford lineups, it will be interesting to see how this brand new, quick, and powerful reworked car will hold its value, especially when you start to compare about all the people that were appealed to being an all-wheel drive. Now that's no longer an option. So it'll be interesting to see how it sells, how people think about it with it only being rear-wheel drive. Moving on, I want to talk about the Jeep. Towards the end of last year, they gave us the historical Jeep Gladiator reveal, and people have voiced their opinions on it, and I have my own, but regardless of how proportions look and how the majority of people will use them to flex on a curb, it is really cool to see the manufacturer bringing a vehicle to market that we've been asking for and we've been wanting for so many years. But this week, there were some leaked photos of an already higher trim package than the maxed out Rubicon, rumored to be called the Gladiator Hercules. It's clear that this off-road truck is targeted directly at the well-known Ford Raptor, but what isn't clear is how Jeep will make it a fair fight. Supposedly, the Hercules will be fitted with steel bumpers, beadlock wheels, better suspension, more skid plates, larger tires, high clearance fenders, and the right gear ratio. You may be able to get the amount of power you want out of the 3.6 liter Pentastar V6, but only when you're slow rock crawling. On the highway, it's going to be brutal in the miles per gallon. High-speed desert running, it's going to be horrible. But when you compare that to the Ford with their Raptor, the Hercules doesn't stand a chance with that stock motor. The Raptor, on the other hand, has a 3.5 twin-turbo EcoBoost V6 that produces 450 horsepower and 510 foot-pounds of torque. The V6 that's in the Jeep, naturally aspirated by the way, only produces 285 crank horsepower. Now Jeep could really pull out some tricks here and put a Hemi in it, 6.4, 5.7, 6.2 Hellcat, but I think unless they do that, this Ford is going to run away, especially knowing that the majority of Ford owners who off-road their Raptors take it desert running. I mean, the high speeds, quick changes in movement, which not really is necessarily what the naturally aspirated Pentastar V6 is known for. So this could be all very true, that Jeeps is going to bring out a Hemi. It's going to make it a really good desert vehicle, really good against the Raptor, but they may not bring it to market. Easter Jeep Safari is just right around the corner, and I could very well see this as being an option for them to showcase what they could do, but not necessarily what they will do. So it'll be interesting to see how all of that works out. I mean, currently it's still definitely very much prototype, just a rumored idea, but it'll be interesting to see how it compares with the Raptor if they make it. If I haven't mentioned luxury vehicles yet, then I will now. Cadillac is planning to supersize its EV program by developing an entirely new vehicle that would be ready for electrification. Still early in development process, the Caddy will most likely be based off of a crossover such as the XT5 or the smaller XT4 platform. Caddy's been working hard to make market jumps and progress sales in the crossover market, and this could be an interesting option, offering a full EV model. Specs haven't been quite released yet, but be prepared for updates soon, as more and more manufacturers fight for control over the best EV figures every day. Well folks, that's it for this week. I hope you enjoyed this video. Make sure to leave a comment down below and subscribe for the latest car news. Follow RevMatch on Instagram. I'll make sure to leave a link in the description below so you can go check that out. I'm gonna be keeping y'all updated all through the week. New posts, news, things that are coming to the channel. Make sure to throw suggestions up in the comments down below for any special content you want to see on this channel. As always guys, have a great week. This is RevMatch, and I'll see you next time.